This language is not, clearly not my first. I could say hello and goodbye, and that's about it. So I feel like that's enough, right?
What more do you need?
Right? I just
What
tell me
more
how to.
do you need?
I will greet you, and then I will leave you. And that
That's
seems
right.
appropriate.
Although you probably don't even need to know goodbye. You just do an Irish goodbye.
All right. We're done here today. Thank you for joining us. No.
Language lessons.
Right. Language
With
lessons
Abby.
with Meg and Abby. What you really need to know.
Oh, wait, here's all you need to know.
Which is a far cry from what we're actually talking about today.
Because these are thrillers. That's all I've had in my head. Like this, we were planning on it, and I was like, how much of that can I sing? How much of that should I sing?
As much as you want. So, fun fact, we just listened to that song on Saturday on our way. We were going out somewhere, and Mike was DJing, and he's like, oh, I got something. He's like, this one's for Ryder. Like, put it on, and it was Thriller. And I was like,
He's like,
because our family has a really big story with that one. So I was like, okay.
This one goes out.
Right? It's the first music video I think that I probably saw, and also the one that terrified me the most.
Right? And
I think,
they didn't play the extended version a lot. Like, there was like...
it was a masterpiece.
Epic.
It was a masterpiece. But from what I hear, the song played, and then the part with the guy's voice comes on, like the scary voice.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently I got nervous and proceeded to run down the hall and lock myself in my bedroom as a child. As a child.
One would. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So, I don't know.
This just happened when we re-listened Saturday.
On Saturday, I locked myself in my room after hearing the scary man's voice.
Ran away.
If that's the case, I would not be reading any thrillers. But
any thrillers.
I have fun things to say about thrillers, but I know this is more your genre than mine. So I would like to hear a little bit about why, like, what is it about a thriller that is like, oh yeah, that's the thing I'm going to pick? Because life is lifing, and most things are scary. So why are we adding more scary?
Because these are not dramatic. These are not somebody's personal drama. These are scary I like the psychological thrillers. So like scary things. And I think, yes, go ahead.
When you say scary, like, what do you mean by scary? Like, are we talking Goosebumps? Or are we talking like things
Funny
that go
you mentioned Goosebumps.
Like, did you read a Goosebumps?
No, I read one recommended by R.L. Stein.
Oh, okay, perfect. That tracks. I'll give you that one.
Yes. So I think it's, I really enjoyed the psychological thrillers, which does kind of like mess with your mind a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's sort of along the lines of what we've talked about before on like, how do you see the whole plot as you're writing this book? And like, as you're reading it, you're like, I feel like that's going to tie to something, but also, wow, that's going to tie to something, right. And you're like, I feel like that's going to come back. That feels like some foreshadowing, like what is going to happen? And I think the sign of a really good thriller, because I'm very in my head and I'm like overanalyzing and I'm thinking about things several steps ahead. So I'm always trying to figure out movies. I'm like, oh, I know the end. Here's what we're doing. We're going to do this. I love figuring it out.
Like, right? I knew it. Called it.
Same. So a really good thriller is when I have no idea.
Okay. Where it shocks you and you're like, oh.
Yeah. Yes. So that's why I like thrillers. I like good thrillers. Don't give me those cheap ones.
No cheap thrillers. No cheap thrills.
No cheap thrills.
Cheap thrills. Stephen King, I consider to be a suspense thriller novelist.
Yeah.
Yes.
Horror,
I will tell
maybe?
you. Horror, yeah. I will tell you. Huge fan base of individuals, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can't read his stuff. And so I think I've been a little bit jaded on the thriller front because his stuff is so to a point that I was like, that's too much. The last book of his that I started to read, can't even tell you the title, but I do remember I was reading it, like I had it open. I got to a part that was very early on in the book and I was like, and finished, and just like shut it and never came back.
Interesting.
And so I think I've been a little bit like worried about them because when we were preparing for this episode, I was like, all right, I got to read something like now-ish versus what I've read before to like, so we can have things to discuss. And I picked one and was pleasantly surprised. And I was like, maybe I've had it all wrong. Maybe I've been having it. Maybe it was just the author,
Yes.
that specific part I didn't like that specific style
Yeah.
versus the other things that I was reading. I was like, oh, like these books that I grabbed were on my shelf. I have them. And I was like, oh, I already own these. Like I didn't, for some reason, didn't
Yes.
put it together. So it has been a journey for me in the last little while, a thriller
Yeah.
journey.
It's been a thrill of a journey.
A
I
thriller journey.
think
So
you might be experiencing a little genre bleed too,
probably.
because I don't know that I would call Stephen King thriller. I do
See,
feel like
I don't
he's
know.
more in the horror suspense.
Yes. And I will tell you, I put them all
So,
together. So I just
but
went like
yes, I'm
anything
like, don't
scary. I
ask
was
me to
like, oh,
describe.
anything scary is all of them. And so that's where I just put it all.
Okay.
And then I was like, oh, like as I'm literally Googling because I'm smart in
Why?
some things, not in others. And I was like, is this a suspenseful novel? Is this a thriller novel? Like trying to make sure that I picked the right thing off of my shelf. So thank you, Always Ready TBR.
You can never pick the wrong thing.
Well,
We
no, I
would just
know.
work it in
We just
anyway.
figure it out. So
Yeah.
I was pleasantly surprised when I got into reading it. So, what was the book that was recommended by R.L. Stein, by our Goosebumps friend? Because I was a huge
So,
Goosebumps kid. Huge
yeah.
Goosebumps kid. Read them
Yeah.
all. Read
I
them all.
wouldn't watch the
Watched
TV
Are You...
shows. That
No,
was a
but I
little
watched Are
scary
You...
for me.
I watched Are You Afraid of the Dark? Only in the daytime, frankly.
On
Which
a
I think
Saturday morning,
definitely...
yes.
Right?
I think
But I
that's
think that definitely
still,
dates me.
yeah, yes, and also, I don't watch scary movies late at night. Anyway, I'm like, we can watch that on a Saturday afternoon, and I'll be
Yeah.
fine. And that's what
Yes,
we're
and then
going with.
we're following it up with a rom-com. So everything is good. So, tell me,
It
because
just
I've
clears
interrupted
it
you.
out. I actually read two to tell you about, but we will
Oh, perfect.
start. I will sandwich yours.
Perfect.
So the one that was recommended by
Ooh.
R.L. Stein, and I have to read you the blurb
Okay.
because it's just fantastic. It says the creeps come on slowly, then start to build. When the cold shivers ran down my back, I wanted to scream, but I was too busy turning pages. I had to know just how frightening will it get.
Okay, if
And
that
I was
doesn't make
like,
you want to read something.
okay,
All right.
I'm in. So this story is called White Smoke. This is about a family who has, it's a blended family, so it's blended family. A
Yeah.
mom and a dad, and they bring their kids together, right?
Yes. A Brady Bunch thing. Situation.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And so they have this opportunity to take an in residence thing for the mom's job. They are trying to, the people in this small town are trying to grow their town, their community,
Okay.
after some really horrific historical events.
Oh,
So they've
all right.
rebuilt on the other side of town, but like this side of town remains half burnt, completely vacated, grown over.
Scathed.
So
Yeah.
the community is trying to like bring attention, grow that back up. So they're offering free rent. You come in, you take a part of this residency, you work in the community, it's this whole thing. So they show up. And as they're there, there's like hauntings in the house. And nobody will, they're the only family in this division or neighborhood or
Okay.
side of the town. And people won't come over here and they won't tell them,
Oh
like
gosh.
they're having a hard time. They
Yeah, like
can't get
figuring
the
out
story
information. Yeah,
of
they're
what
just kind of like, yeah, you're
happened.
here, but
Yeah.
why?
And there's
Why
like
won't other people
people
come here?
watching. Yeah. And they're like watching from a distance. And it's just kind of giving you like the hair on the back of your neck being raised, like as they're trying to make their place in this community. And so then, like I said, the house, there's like hauntings that start coming up. And we find out later, I'm going to spoil this because I have to give you
You
some
have
of
to tell
it.
me. Okay, you have to tell me. So, spoiler.
But we find out later that the people that are trying to grow this they're all interconnected. They're all trying to grow and get money. But there was like this whole ploy of how they were going to get rid of this underserved section. And so they ended up like starting fires in
Oh
it.
no.
And
So
they
they're
like
the reason.
sparked riots. Yes. And so that actually happens again. And then we find out that some of the people that we thought actually died in the house are living under it.
Oh my God, we have like an Encanto Bruno situation.
So
Without the music.
it's not a dead haunting. It's
No, it's a
like,
live haunting.
we thought you
Oh,
were dead, but you're alive, living under our floorboards, scaring the shit out of everybody.
okay, that's
Yes.
literally one of my largest fears, right? Like, not, have you heard the stories where like somebody's living in the attic and nobody knew? Like,
Yes.
that is a constant thing where I'm like, I hope this is a creepypasta because I'm not here for it. That's
Yes.
terrifying. That's
Yes.
terrifying.
Yes,
But it
it
sounds great
was.
to read, but also terrifying. I wouldn't be
And
reading
it's
that one at
just,
nighttime.
as the whole story just unfolded, like, you were like, I was glued because I was like, I
Right.
was creeped out, but I was also super curious. It's kind of one of those things where you're like, I don't want to, like, but I'm gonna keep tiptoeing towards it
Right?
because
I'm gonna keep
now I
reading
like
it.
have to know. Yes.
It was a check
So,
Palahniuk for sure. Like, that's how I felt about his book when we read his, right? Where I was like, I will read this with one eye open, one eye shut, but I have to keep going. Like, I
yes,
just have to keep
I
going.
just have to know the story is
Oh
that good.
gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was
Okay.
incredible. I gave it 5 stars. It was fantastic. I read it so, like, it was just, there's more that happens. I didn't spoil all of it. So if you are interested in picking up White Smoke,
Do it.
do it.
Do it. Do
So
it.
good.
It
So
sounds
good.
fantastic. And it sounds a little bit harder than the one I read.
Which one did
A little
you
bit harder.
read?
So I actually picked up, already had on my shelf, a Colleen Hoover book, which is not typically suspense or thriller,
Yeah, I
right?
wouldn't think.
So
Yeah.
when you open the book, and I wish I could show it to you, but we'll get to why I don't have it in a moment. Um, when you open up the book, the first couple of pages of like the hey author's note to the reader, she literally says like, hey, I started writing this book for a while, and this is such a change from what I typically write. She's like that I kind of put it down and put it away, and then came back to it and was like, no, I have to finish this. Like, I have to finish writing this one. It's so different than the stuff
Okay.
that I usually write. And so I was like, oh, okay. And it is very suspenseful. It is very much different from the other things that she's written that I have read. Right? It was called Too Late, and like I said, Too Late, Colleen Hoover, and I picked it up. I want to say last Saturday. We'll say last Saturday. I picked it up Saturday and I started reading. And it's basically about a woman. You meet this woman, and she is living in a house with her boyfriend that's like a party house, right? She's in college. She's trying to finish up. She's got a brother who needs, assistance and care. And so she's trying to do different things to make sure that he has his care taken over and she doesn't have to worry about him. And she's had quite a difficult life. Well, you find out that the boyfriend is actually not who he says he is. He's like a drug lord,
Oh.
right?
Oh my.
Right? So you've got drug lord boyfriend with girlfriend who he keeps promising he's going to leave the game for. And then you are introduced to these two other gentlemen who become part of the drug lord ring. But what you know is that they are actually undercover cops. Right? And so they get into this whole thing, and you actually meet one of the gentlemen alongside your main, character, your main girl character, and they end up becoming friends, and they're kind of like flirty or whatever. So this one actually had like a romance twist to the creepy, and I was like, all right, I can do this. Like
I
this
can
one
take
I
this.
like. Right? I like this one. And so it was a lot, like it had a whole bunch of things that happened, and it's very much like bad things are going down, and like I remember getting to one point in the story and I was like, okay, we're cool, we have fixed the problem or whatever, but there's still like 50 pages left, or maybe 75, that something else is going to happen
Yeah.
because this problem seems fixed, but obviously it's not because the math ain't mathin'. So you end up getting into this whole thing, and stings and not stings and lies and people shooting each other, and like it's just all the things that are happening. And so I don't want to give it away because it was very good. I read it in one single day. I literally started it like mid-morning and finished it in the afternoon, and took the book and just handed it to my mother. Like I literally shut it and was like, here, like read this immediately.
Your
She
turn.
checked it. She was like, you didn't even put your stamp in it. I was like, ma'am, I finished it right here. Like I haven't even gotten to put my stamp. Like I'm just gonna hand it. I'll stamp it later. You
My
need to read
stamp and
this.
my
It
book
was
have not been in the same room yet.
no, but it was actually so good, to the point that like we had gone
Okay.
over to like to ride bikes. The kids were riding bikes or something like that, and I was like, that's fine. And she was like, yeah, just go ahead and finish it. I was like, I don't think you understand. I'm gonna sit here and devour the rest of this thing one day. One day it took me. So it wasn't a super long read, but it's because every time I flipped a page, I was like, something else was happening. And I think
Yeah.
that's I read other books like that, but they don't feel so much like a pull, right?
Mm.
Chuck Palahniuk pulled me. This one pulled me. Lucy Foley pulls me, like to the point that I'm like, I can't put it down because I just want to keep going. And I have that same feeling when it comes to certain TV shows,
Yeah.
right? That binge-worthy television show that
Just
has
keep
a little bit of
going.
drama in it, that has
Yes.
you feel that almost like I just have to push play on the next thing. I just have to flip the
I
next
have to
page.
know. I
Yes.
have to know what happens next.
Yes. And so I really enjoyed it. And as I'm reading it, I'm like, if I read more like this, I could totally be into it. Right? I could totally be into it. And there are
Yeah.
other books that I have really enjoyed. Nora Roberts actually writes a couple under her pseudonym of J.D. Robb that are
Yes.
more of this type. And
Are
I
they
do
more of
like
the
that.
thriller side?
Yes, they're a little bit darker. And
Darker.
that's
Yeah.
half the reason that I don't actually read a lot of those by that pseudonym, because it just doesn't, it's not what I look for in a Nora Roberts book when I'm in that mood. But I will
Yeah.
say I have read some of them. They're also very good. So I was like, maybe it's not, maybe it's not that I don't like suspenseful novels, suspenseful thrillers. It's just that I have to pick the right ones,
You're reading the
right?
wrong ones.
I'm reading the wrong ones for me
Yes.
because I know what I like, right?
Yes.
And I'm
Yes.
never that person. I also, I'm going to be very honest, I don't watch a lot of reality television because I can't stand the drama there. Like I
It's the
can't stand,
drama. It's
right?
the
It's that
drama.
kind of stuff. I can't handle it because I'm like,
Mm-mm.
that secondhand embarrassment will take me out every time. And I don't know why. My youngest child is exactly the same way. He won't even watch a Disney movie.
Oh no.
Right? Like if you get to the point where like something bad's happening and he's like, I'm out, and he'll literally like walk to the next room. And you're like, oh, okay. Because he can't handle like the stress of whatever's going on
The
there. And I'm like,
secondhand embarrassment.
yeah, the secondhand embarrassment, the secondhand stress, he can't do it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I think maybe that's me. I think that he got that one honest. So I think that's
That
why,
could be.
as much as I loved this one, I would read more like this, but I typically stay far away. I will recommend a thriller to many other people. When somebody's like, I need somebody to art read a thriller, I'm like, I have 4 people who would love to do that for you. It is not me. It might be me. It could be
Is
me.
not me. It could be you.
Maybe it's me.
If you are trying to get into, I will tell you, Harlan Coben is
You
great.
did mention that, right?
I
haven't
thoroughly
read it.
enjoy him. He has a ton of books. They're all very similar. You know exactly what you're going to get. So, if you like that story arc,
Yeah.
definitely pick up a Harlan Coben. He will keep you for sure. You will like have to know. And it's one of those where you're like, huh, how'd you think of that? That's
Right?
weird and
That's the
creepy.
other
And
thing.
also
Like,
awesome for me as a reader. Thank you for
yes.
this.
Because also there's a little bit of certain books when you read them where I'm like, oh, like that's cool that it happened in the book that way. Like that's terrifying that it happened in the book that way. That could never happen in real life. And I'm like, but what if? Like it's that little bit of what if it but what if it did?
So I'm going to steal that segue. That is
Okay, good. Do it.
perfect. This book
Ooh,
called An Anonymous Girl.
that cover's a little creepy too.
Right? I was like,
Right?
oh, I knew exactly what
the
I'm
pages
getting
yellow?
with this one. No,
Oh, they looked. Oh, the back is yellow. Okay, I was
The
like, the
back
pages look
is.
like they were
The
bright yellow. I
cover
was like,
is.
that is like
this
the
book,
anonymous girl.
The Anonymous Girl. This brings in. This is a lot more psychological
Okay.
and dramatic in that way.
Right.
So this is about a psychologist who is doing a study on morality. Morality and ethics, I believe. And so there's a whole bunch of girls within this, 18 to 32, brunette, this whole thing, right? There's a certain
Yeah.
type.
Right.
And it's anonymous, so it's through a computer. So like if I was sitting here, I'd be typing my answers. The questions change depending on how you answer.
Okay.
And then the study's supposed to be over. However, the psychologist keeps with this one girl. And then we find out, and I don't know why, and I don't know if this is I'm just going to say it. Screw it. We find out that the therapist is actually a woman.
Was
Because
she
you're kind
catfishing
of
as a man? Or did you just
No.
assume she was a man?
I just
don't
assumed
know.
because
Okay,
of
you
what
just
is
don't know.
happening. She's referred to as Dr. So-and-so.
Okay.
You just don't, I don't know. I just didn't assume that it was a woman. So then when you find out a woman, it almost feels like even worse of a betrayal
Right.
because the questions are very probing. They're very
Okay.
like, so then you find this out. So then we know that the study is over for everybody. But like I said, this therapist continues with this girl, and now she's doing in-person tasks, and the therapist is leading this girl with like, I gave you this gift when you were chilly. I gave you a scarf. You wore my scarf, but like I had bought that for you. And so like, what would
Oh
you
gosh.
do in
Yeah.
this? And it
Ugh.
just keeps, and it's interesting because it could, like, people could definitely take advantage of their situation or their power,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so then as you're going, you find out that the therapist's husband is the one that she's puppeteering this girl to try to steer into cheating because
Oh my God.
he's cheated before.
Right.
And so now the therapist is trying to puppeteer it to happen again because she
So
couldn't
she can
catch
catch
him.
her. Oh my gosh, so she can
Yes.
catch him. Oh my
Yes.
gosh, what a ruse. What an elaborate
So
ruse. Just leave him.
it's it's this whole thing, and like it keeps building, and you're like, I mean, that's really creepy, but then when the therapist explains something, you're kind of like, oh, okay, like maybe, like I
Right?
I get. And then when you see it from the girl's perspective, she's like, oh, well, maybe the test is this. And so now she's like acting a certain way because she's thinking that the
Oh my
experiments
gosh. So
are leading her this way.
are you getting it from both perspectives? You're getting her like doctor perspective and like
Yes.
the therapist perspective and girl perspective?
Yes.
Ooh, that's a lot. I kind of like that. You know I love a dual perspective, right? That's
It's
crazy.
so good because it's like this is so creepy but not so far-fetched that it
Right?
doesn't seem true.
Which is
Like,
terrifying. There's
right.
your terror. There's your thriller
That is
because
a
that's the
good
scary
thriller
part.
to me because you're like,
Yes.
it's that psychological thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. And the
Thoroughly
other
enjoyed
thing,
that
like,
one.
I can see why you would have been like, hey, it could probably be a dude therapist. If the questions are super probing, you would think, or you would assume, or at least I would, that a woman who wouldn't want to be asked those questions would not ask those
Yes.
questions to somebody else. And so you'd be
Yes.
like, oh, of course it's somebody who wouldn't have lived in a body to know not to ask those questions or know that those are a
Yes.
little bit over the line or whatever. So then to then find out, oh, it is a woman who should know how those questions feel.
Who
Now we're in a
know?
different place completely.
Yeah. Who is in a different it was, and I think that's kind of when it switched for me. Like you
Right.
find out pretty early on, but you're led to believe so many things throughout
Yeah.
the book. So good.
So to me, when
Highly
that
recommend.
happens, part of me is like, how could I have fallen for that, right? Like I should have known better. But the other part of me is like, way to go, you author, for leading me down this path when I thought I was
Yes.
looking at all of the different pieces. And that's how I feel
Yes.
about a mystery too, right? When I'm led down some path where I'm like, oh no, I've got this, and it ends up being something else and you've shocked me, like that is a round of applause
Yes.
for you. Because I'm not
Yes.
it's not because I think that I'm intelligent, it's because I think that I've paid attention enough to know. Right?
Yes.
I followed the logical signs to figure out what this is. And so if you have illogical the logical, way to go, right? Because
If
you
you
put
have
that much thought and
stumped
effort.
me, I
Right?
am very forward thinking. I am very analytical. I can see a lot of things coming,
Right?
okay? But like if you do something like this and just shock the hell out of me,
Yes.
oh, I'm in. I'm in. So good. So good.
Right? Right?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I'm not finished with it yet, but I will bring it up because I read Lucy Foley's The Guest List a long time ago and really enjoyed it. Right? And that one's
Yes.
dark and stormy, and we talked about it I think with mysteries a little bit. But it's a little bit dark and stormy, and you've got like who's dead, why they're dead, who did the dead, all that sort of thing. I am currently on The Invitation.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Similar?
this one, a little bit similar. Right? This is
Okay.
set in 1953, and you've got a gentleman who's like trying to reinvent himself from something that happened previously, and now he's living in Rome, right? Or near about there. And he ends up getting an invitation. He's a journalist. Ends up getting an invitation from an Italian contessa to like help kind of publicize or report from the place that she's filming a movie, which happens to be on a yacht. And we know that books that happen on boats are not great for the
No.
people involved, right? Love a good book on about being on a boat, but the fact that like you can't escape, right? You can't escape from a boat. So when something happens, it's almost like an Agatha Christie novel where like the killer's on the boat somewhere. Something's going
Right.
on, and so it's
You know
all
something's
about
happening.
like there's a little bit of a romance in there. There's guilt. There's like deep dark secrets. There's all of that. So I am working on this one and really enjoy it. But I do like Lucy Foley anyways, but it's still one of those that like I'm in the middle of like 18 real life things right now, and I'm still like I just give me a second to read a
You're
couple
like, I
more
just need
pages,
to
right?
escape.
Like I
I
just
just
I
need
just need
this.
to keep
Yes.
reading. And it almost feels like if I don't, they're gonna move on without me.
Right. Yes.
Like if
You're
I
like,
don't find
but
out
I
what happens,
can't leave my book friends.
I can't save them. Right? Like I can't
Right.
like the last book I read, I can't save her if I stop reading and don't find out what happens as if I have anything to do with what's going on. But a good author is going to put you right there in the middle of it.
Yes.
So
And
you're
it
like, I
will
have to
eat
figure out
at
what's going
you.
on. Yes.
Yeah, it will.
Yes.
It will just like sit on your shoulder and whisper in your ear as you're trying to do other things. And you're like, I wonder how it's going for her.
I wonder if she's okay. Like, what would I have done? And that's the other thing. I'm also putting myself in the position of like, what would I have done? Or like, she makes a choice and goes somewhere with him where she shouldn't have done. I'm like, what? You know better. Like, you know better. We've talked about this. You know better. And then she like changes her
Yes.
mind and says something, and you're looking at it from the guy's perspective, and she's saying something, and you're like, why would she say that? She knows better. Like, she doesn't feel that way. She's lying to you. But you also don't want him to know that she's lying because then she'll get hurt. Like, it's all of the crazy things. Crazy.
Yeah.
So I don't
Craziness.
hate I don't hate a good suspenseful book with a couple of
Good
trigger
thriller.
warnings. Trigger warnings are new for me in books, right? New for me in the fact of like I don't think I necessarily pay attention to them, but I think books that are coming out now, many of them have trigger warnings in the front,
Yes.
right? I feel like we didn't
I
have that
have
before.
seen that. No, we didn't have that. We had no idea what we were getting
We
into.
were just reading and we were like, "Oh, that was unfun." Like the whole thing with
Yes.
the Stephen King novel. Like if there had been a trigger warning in the front of that at that time in my life, I probably wouldn't have read that book.
And
But we weren't doing them.
some of the ones I've seen, I'm like, I know they mention it, but it's not a massive part. And that's
No.
something that maybe I would just like gloss over
Yeah.
and keep going. Or maybe it's just not a trigger for me. And that's
Right.
why like it doesn't. So yeah, that's definitely a new territory for me as well.
Yeah, things that I'm like, oh, am I? It's not affecting. I would think it would affect the way I read it a little bit, where I'd be knowing like, oh, this thing's gonna
Looking
come up,
for it. Oh God,
right?
this
But
is
I
going to
don't think
happen.
I don't think I pay attention enough. Like I might glance over it,
I know I
and then I
don't.
think I probably forget it.
Yeah.
Frankly, I probably forget it
Yeah.
because I'm like, oh, okay, that thing will be in here. It's not. It's something
It's
I
like
can
we
read
made a
about.
big deal about it in the beginning, but now, like, in the context of the story, it's not as front and center as it
Right.
seems.
Because it's
And
just
so,
part
yeah,
of like, and not
yeah,
even be just a passing mention, which I get it.
yeah.
Like people are turned off by
It
that kind of
could be
thing.
triggering.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So the trigger warnings are new to me, and I'm
very new.
like I said, I'm cool with it. Especially if I don't know, I don't think I care. Like I care, but I don't care.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
Well, and it's interesting because I'm like, it makes you think. You're like, if this one had had a trigger warning, like emotionally manipulative, and I would be like, how do I feel about this? And
Yeah.
then also, I would need more context because I thought this book was fantastic. But if you're classifying it as emotionally manipulative, now I look like a creep because I
We're
thoroughly
not.
enjoyed it. But
This is
like,
great.
not in real life.
Right. But the thing is, we're not putting as long as. Have I not been to a movie recently? We're not putting trigger warnings on movies, right? Like the rating is the trigger warning, where
Ratings?
it's like
Is that
right, but that's
where
not
they're
like a.
like, here's
It'll
why
be
it's
like
rated this way?
sexually suggestive, violent, and I'm like, cool, but it's not going into like what the violence is. Whereas
Yeah.
the book is literally being like, oh, there's going to be like dismemberment and murder. And you're like, okay. Like
Yeah,
those
in the
those
right
aren't great things.
situation, I
Right?
could like that as long as it's not happening to me. Thank
As
you.
long as it's not happening to anybody. Maybe it's just in the passing story of like a news report or something, like whatever. But but we're not doing that. Like the rating, yes, but we're not going into super detail as we are in the books, which I think is interesting. So
Yeah.
that was because the Too Late actually had a small list of trigger warnings, and I was like, huh. Like it did make me pause, and I was like, okay. Like I read it and was like, and moving on. Like
Yes. Yes. Same.
so
Yeah.
that's to say, I'm not saying no to thrillers. I'm not saying no. I think I'm cool with it. Yeah.
I think I'll allow it.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think it's if I have the time to be sucked into something so much that I just can't put it down, sure. Like I'm into that. If I'm already hyper stressed and hyper aware and super emotional and like also it's a full moon, maybe I'm not reading that book that week.
Maybe we're not. Maybe we're
I
not.
would be emotionally ready for a thriller.
Yeah.
But I need recommendations. So like I need y'all's
Yes, give us some more.
recommendations of things that are like what I read.
Yeah, because I know, like I said, I have my author that I know I can specifically go to, but like I'm gonna exhaust his catalog soon because I
Soon
have
we're
read a
gonna
bunch
need
of them.
more.
I accidentally picked these up based on the story behind, so I wasn't actively seeking them. But yeah, let us know.
Please
Thriller
let us
you're
know.
loving.
Would love to know what you're reading. I know there are a couple of audience members out there who are big into the thriller space, so would love to kind of hear what suspenseful things. And I think we go through phases because I think there are some other people I've talked to who are like, oh, I'm in a psychological thriller kick right now. Right?
Yes.
Like I know I get on a summer book kick or I get on a winter book kick or whatever it is, a holiday book kick. I don't know that I've
Cozy
ever jumped
books.
into a suspenseful psychological thriller kind of thing,
These were
but
back to back for me. Like
were
I
they?
read the one and I was like, oh, so good.
I'm in.
And then jumped immediately right into the next one. I was like, yes, I'm definitely like in this world now. And so it's the perfect time to jump in.
Well,
Yes.
that sounds like it, and you're gonna definitely need a few more recommendations. So
I need
hit us
some
for your
more.
recommendation with your recommendations. Let us know what you've read.
Tell us your thrillers.
And knowing, like, I will tell you, trying to drive and like seeing the video in my head, probably not the safest thing. But you know, I hit the claps where I needed to hit them, so I'm not way
I
off.
got what
not
I
way
needed.
off. Right? It
We were
was
not
totally
chair
fine.
dancing.
Totally fine. It was good. We were still keeping within the safety confines of a responsible driver. But
Fantastic.
until we see you next time, make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss our next video. And we look forward to seeing you. And like we said, if you've seen recently, we're over on Threads. We're hanging out on Instagram. And we'll see you soon. It was great to have you join us for today's chat. If you'd like to continue the conversation, provide a recommendation, or simply say hi, pop over to Instagram at wine.read.wine. Or leave us a comment on our YouTube channel. We'll see you on the next episode. Happy reading!